President Trump says Denmark cannot protect Greenland as he repeats his demand for control over the Arctic territory.
Danish soldiers have landed in Greenland after the US president refused to rule out military action, telling Europe they should focus on Ukraine following opposition from NATO allies.
Now, this comes as Norway's Prime Minister publishes a text message from President Trump, who said he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace after not being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize last year.
Well, in response, Sir Keir Starmer has urged the EU not to hit back at President Trump and retaliate to US threats of tariffs.
Use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. A trade war is in no one's interest.
Now, all of this comes ahead of President Trump's speech, which will be at the World Economic Forum in Davos tomorrow, as today marks 1 year on from his return to the White House.
Well, joining us now is US political analyst Eric Ham. Very good morning to you, Eric. What do you make of President Trump and this letter in which he says, I no longer think purely about peace?
I tell you what I think of it. He's mental. He's deranged, Eric. I'm being serious. People here really are questioning this man's mental health. And he had a lot of support in the United Kingdom, and it is flying out the window.
Well, I think that's the ball game. I absolutely agree with you. And I think what we're seeing from the president is he's saying the quiet part out loud. This is a man now who has made clear that he intends to make war, make mayhem, chaos, not peace. And he's doing so with a shot across the bow, not just for Greenland, but going after all of the United States allies with these proposed tariffs on 8 European nations. And in addition to that, I think what we're seeing from this president is he's making clear that treaties, pacts, these international agreements, they simply are fluid and they only mean anything if they actually advance his own self-interest. And I think that's what we're seeing play out right now. And quite frankly, I think you're seeing many global leaders becoming fed up with this president. And I think we'll see that play out in Davos, particularly when the president is trying to woo many of these leaders to join his board of peace to help serve the redevelopment of Gaza.
He's a no bigger story than Donald Trump, Norman. And I just wonder, as a politician, what's your particular take on this? I mean, what do you think of what you're looking at, what is unfolding involving Trump?
Well, this isn't the West first. It's not America. It's not even America first. It's Trump first. And he's simply pursuing Greenland for egotistical, personal reasons. There's no question that there's a security threat to Greenland. Russia's interested in reclaiming the Soviet Union as it was, but Greenland's not part of that. They're not interested. They never mention Greenland. And in any case, the US can put as many bases as it wants on Greenland under the 1951 agreement. So there's no security issue there. And if the Russians did invade Greenland, which is highly unlikely, then NATO would respond because it's a NATO country. So this is a complete red herring. And I think the truth comes down to this astonishing letter to the Norwegian Prime Minister, when he says, quote, considering your country decided not to give you the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, which isn't true, of course.
8 wars plus.
I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace. I mean, this is toddler politics, but this is a man who's got his finger on the nuclear button, controlling the most important country in the world. I think, I'm not being excessive here, but I think he's ill. I think he's mentally ill. I think we need a psychological analysis of him, and I think the Republicans and J.D. Vance ought to be removing him from office. I think he's mentally unfit for office now.
So who is there to rein him in? Is it those two guys?
Well, the American Constitution has a process, which I'm not sure has ever been activated, whereby the majority of the cabinet and the vice president demand he be removed, then they can generate a letter to remove him. He then appeals to Congress to say that I don't want to be removed. And if Congress agrees with the vice president and the cabinet, then that's the end of Trump. And that's what needs to happen now.
But J.D. Vance is MAGA through and through, isn't he? I mean, many would say he's just as hardball, if not more hardball.
Well, I think he's hardball, but he's not mentally ill. And I think some of this is put on because he has to say that because he's vice president.
Yeah,
you know, I think he's more realistic.
I mean, what Norman's saying there, Anna, is there is certainly a big theory about that on social media. A lot of people are looking and saying exactly the same thing.
No, I mean, I agree with Norman on this. This is 100% ego. It's childish and it's deeply worrying to have the leader of the Western world behaving like this. I think what we have to hope is that the Supreme Court in the United States effectively comes to our rescue this week by declaring that Donald Trump is acting beyond his powers. He's acting in an ultra-vires way, and that actually it's for Congress to be making some of these decisions.
Yes.
That would actually be, in a way, the way out. And then, of course, Trump could climb down, he could blame the lawyers, but actually the world would be a safer place.
Well, President Trump's been busy this morning posting on Truth Social, if we can get these pictures up on the screen. They're AI-generated images. One is of President Trump in the Oval Office, surrounded by world leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer, Giorgia Meloni of Italy, Ursula von der Leyen. And then there's a second image that he's posted this morning, in the early hours this time. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio and President Trump himself with the American flag, putting the American flag in Greenland. And there's a sign there that says Greenland, US territory, 2026. What do you make of these images, Anna?
Well, I mean, I think this absolutely proves the point, doesn't it? This is all about him and his image and his legacy. Because under the 1951 treaty after the Second World War, he doesn't have to own Greenland in order to have US protections, in order to have US defence systems on Greenland. He has those powers already. In terms of businesses, he could establish a business. This is all about ownership. He doesn't need to own Greenland. Why does he want to own Greenland? All about himself, all about ego.
We've just had a new post on Truth Social from President Trump, this time attacking the UK's decision to hand the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. He's called it a great stupidity. He says, shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, brilliant is in inverted commas, the United Kingdom is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia. This is the site of a vital US military base to Mauritius.
That's wrong.
They're doing so for no reason whatsoever.
But on that, I would actually agree with him, but that's not what he said at the time.
No, it's not what he said.
Yeah, when he had Keir Starmer in front of him in the Oval Office, he said, oh, well, he's got a long lease, you know, I think he's doing what he's doing is OK. You can't trust a word he says.
No, and the Americans aren't being removed from Diego Garcia. Let's be quite clear about that. The American bases will continue there.
Yes, but I still don't think we should be paying. I don't think we should be giving the military base away. It's a significant base, and we should be keeping it.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GBNews viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 73% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 73% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 extra months free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Pablo Ohana joins us now, the political strategist. Well, Pablo, how do you see this playing out? How's this going to develop?
Well, as usual with Trump, I wouldn't be the first to try and predict what's going to happen. But I do think that it is, we're sort of looking at 1 year of Donald Trump since he's come to office. And as everyone knows, it's been high speed, if nothing else. We've had a year of, executive order-led presidency. There's been a lot of talk around tariffs and borders and alliances. It's been very transactional. I think that his reaction to both the sort of recent developments around Greenland, but also the Chagos Islands, reflects that he is a very transactional president. And of course, the United Kingdom has a relatively long and sort of difficult history with different territories around the world. Not one that I'm sure that Donald Trump has much time for. But yeah, it's my time of predicting what Donald Trump is going to do has long gone.
So, Pablo, let's talk about the Chagos Islands, shall we? Because we've got this post from President Trump in the last 30 minutes saying that, shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, the United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia for no reason whatsoever. The UK is giving away extremely important land. It's an act of great stupidity and in another very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. What do you make of this post by President Trump? Because he did give the green light, didn't he, for the Chagos Islands deal to go ahead?
Yeah, he did support it originally. I'm not quite sure what's changed in that time. But I think, we know why the Chagos Islands sort of being separated from the UK. And we know that the UK has, as I say, this kind of really difficult history with colonization. And I think that there has to become, this actually did have cross-party consensus in the UK. Obviously this was a deal that began earlier. It's now been completed by the Labour government. I'm actually very glad to see Donald Trump in that statement say that the UK remains a strong ally and a NATO ally, because that hasn't always been the case.
Commas.
Say again, sorry?
A brilliant NATO ally, he describes us as, but brilliant is in inverted commas.
Yeah. As always, it's probably double-edged, but I think it's still good to see that in there because it has been a difficult relationship. We obviously would have seen Keir Starmer's press conference yesterday when he spoke to the country, and using pretty pointed language. Actually, I was quite taken aback by just how direct Keir Starmer was yesterday. But I think that this is a step forward for the UK. I do think that the UK I'm very proud of our country. I will be the first to say I really love our country. I think we're the best in the world, but I do think that we have some really complicated history we have to face up to, and the Chagos Islands is part of that.
And Pablo, what do you think of Trump himself and his state of mind at the minute? Do you think it's going to be questioned?
Well, I will say, as someone who was on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's campaign, that we had to field those questions an awful lot. There was obviously some really difficult times for us during that campaign. I think we're seeing a very similar thing here with Donald Trump. And it was interesting that Donald Trump made that campaign a couple of years ago all about the kind of state of the president, the mind of the president, whether he was capable of running a country that large, a country that so many others around the world depend on. And I think we're probably seeing a similar thing here, that kind of a line of attack that Trump used against Joe Biden, and to some extent actually Kamala Harris too, might come back to haunt him this year.
Okay, appreciate your take, Pablo. Leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. And we can now speak to the environmental spokesperson for the Liberal Democrats. We say hello, good morning, and welcome to Tim Farron.
Good morning to you, Mr. Farron.
Good morning.
Morning. Can we start with this post on Truth Social from President Trump? It's been in the last 30 minutes or so I'm not sure if you've been able to see it yet. But he talks about, shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, the United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, a vital US military base to Mauritius, for no reason whatsoever. The UK giving away extremely important land is an act of great stupidity and in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. What do you make of this post from President Trump? The Chagos deal hasn't been ratified yet in Parliament. Does it need to be reversed?
Well, I have seen the post. I mean, as Pablo's just said in your previous interview, Donald Trump has been fully in support of the Chagos deals. Whether you agree with it or not, it's clearly that the fact that Donald Trump also agrees with it. And this is not about Chagos. This is just him lashing out over Greenland, which is a bizarre situation to find ourselves in, that the NATO alliance has pretty much kept the peace, particularly in the Western world, for the last 80 years, something that was fought for by our grandfathers and great-grandfathers in the bloody Second World War, and all the people at home who endured such utter torment for those 6 years, to build a peace that was an enduring peace, and it's been thrown away by one man. And even if you are a person who would normally politically be favourable towards Donald Trump, surely this is the moment when you realise that the peace of the world is now being threatened by one man acting extremely foolishly. I mean, the reality is, yes, Greenland is significant militarily, strategically, and it belongs to a staunch NATO ally. America has troops on that island anyway, and the thought that Russia or China are about to nab it, and if they did, there wouldn't be a huge and unified NATO response, is completely for the birds. So yes, anybody who's a true patriot this morning will be raising an eyebrow at Donald Trump, and indeed, hopefully, potentially standing up to him even more strongly than that.
So, Tim, what do you suspect the truth is? I mean, if it's not about security and he can up the ante there when he wants, he can put more troops there when he wants according to the existing agreement, what does he want Greenland for? Is it wealth?
Well, do you know what? Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. I've always thought, actually, in my experience, that the vice that traps most politicians is not the lurid stuff that ends up in the tabloids. It's vanity. I feel it's vanity.
Well, it's okay to not have won an Academy Award, for instance, or Golden Globe or whatever, but not to have won, what did he not win?
The Nobel Peace Prize.
The Nobel
Peace Prize.
And then moan about it. To reflect Donald Trump's moaning, we've got Anna here and Norman. What do you think, Norman?
Well, look, I mean, the Peace Prize thing, he says he hasn't got the Peace Prize, complains to the Prime Minister of Norway, and therefore he's more inclined to go to war. I mean, it's just an absurd situation to be in and shows a man is mentally unstable, as indeed is the case with his recent remarks this morning. He's been busy on his typewriter or his laptop about the Chagos Islands. He says that the deal, leaving aside the rights and wrongs of the deal for a second, he said the deal has been signed for no reason whatsoever, an act of total weakness. And yet when the deal was signed by the UK, with his support, he said they're talking about a very, very long-term powerful lease, a very strong lease, and he said it's a very good deal. That's what he said at the time. Yeah. So he's completely the opposite.
And he said that this was a monumental achievement, and he expressed his explicit support.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be seriously worried because he's either lashing out and reacting completely emotionally, which is worrying in itself. That's not being a statesman. Or, frankly, that does show signs of dementia. If you are forgetting completely and utterly what you said only a little while ago, I mean, you've got to worry, haven't you, about mental faculty here. But where actually, ironically, I agree with Trump, what he's actually said today about the Chagos Islands, I completely agree with. There's no way we should be signing over our sovereign territory when we have the most important strategic military base there and paying for the privilege. I mean, it's a bonkers decision by Keir Starmer. Didn't need to make it. No legal grounds why he did need to make it. A political decision.
No, Norman, I thought his response to what Trump's up to at the moment was quite firm yesterday. Unusually for him, I thought it wasn't just the usual kisses backside type.
Well, it was carefully worded. He has been quite clear on supporting the rights of Greenland and Denmark to sort out themselves without US interference. However, I think we had that letter from Mark Rutte, which was read out earlier on in the programme, which was just vomit-inducing, quite frankly, and so sycophantic it was untrue.
Just remind people who Rutte is.
He's the UN Secretary-General, not the UN Secretary, the NATO Secretary-General.
NATO Secretary-General.
And I think that the lesson over the last 3 months or so has been this flattery of Trump, this sycophancy towards him, doesn't actually work.
Well, it works with him. It's the way that he operates, isn't it?
Well, that's what he wants to have. He wants wants to have it, but he doesn't show any response, any positive response. It doesn't generate the sort of response that people who offer the sycophancy actually want in return. He turns on them. I mean, everybody's been very kind to Trump and saying how good he is, which he hasn't been, of course, but he just spits back in their face.
I think you're absolutely right, and it's such a contrast to the way Margaret Thatcher used to deal with Reagan.
Yes.
And Reagan listened to her and had respect for her, and she always stood up to him. And, you know, remember how angry she was when he invaded Grenada.
Yeah.
And she absolutely lost it. And he held the phone, history says, away from his ear and said to the rest of the room, "Isn't she magnificent?"
But do you think President Trump would respect that kind of show of strength from the likes of
I think he does.
Starmer?
He does, because we've seen Mark Carney in Canada standing up to him a bit, and actually he's backed off Canada a bit.
We should also say that we can't speculate into President
Of course,
Trump's
we can
health.
speculate.
We don't have any insight
Well, everybody
into
else
his-
is speculating.
into his medical
Everybody else thinks he's
status.
gone in the head. So
He would say he's
we're only
in perfect
reflecting
health.
that sort of thing. But Elliot rather fool herself into thinking
You've
this
gotta be
man's
careful.
normal.
Well, I think Trump was very quick to say that Joe Biden was not up fit for office, wasn't he?
I think we can show the contrast in those remarks and worry about the inconsistency. I mean, must be able
Staggering.
to...
The inconsistency is staggering.
We must be
absolutely.
able to ask that question.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate question.
How do you think the conversation's going to go down in Davos this week, you two? With all of these on Truth Social?
I think the EU and Britain have got to decide whether or not more sycophancy is the answer, or whether they're going to have to take a different view and say to Trump, "We're going to get firm with you." I mean, there's a crucial point here to decide where you're going to go in terms of strategy.
Anna?
What can we do?
Well,
what effect can we do that will actually influence?
Well,
Sorry, Anna. But there's a principle here, and you should stand up for what is right. And we have, throughout history, as a small country, always stood up for the principle that the people of a country have the right to determine who governs them. And I think we've done it. You know, we've done it before. We did it in Europe, obviously, Second World War. We've done it with Ukraine. We must stand up to Trump.
Yeah.
I actually think he'll back off.
I think the interesting thing is, I mean, this channel would have a lot of support and a lot of sympathy and empathy with Trump. And you can feel it over the past week just drifting out the window. It's just, he's losing it big time.
He's taking on the whole world, and there's no need, because actually, you know, he has made some progress. I mean, you know, sometimes I say to myself, you've got to hand it to Trump. He has stopped the Gaza-Israel situation, thank goodness. And what a shame if he throws all of those good things away by...
Except he wants to bring Vladimir Putin into this peace council, which is completely
that's
bizarre.
a complete no-no.